Joining us now to help us better understand what the rollout of a vaccine could look like here in the United States is Dan Stockdale. He's a licensed nursing home administrator who manages several facilities, including one part of the pilot program to launch the COVID vaccine on residents. So Dan, I appreciate being on the program tonight. We're seeing in the UK right now where they're first putting out their widespread rollout of a vaccine, and we're anticipating one here in the United States as well. Are you looking forward to that in the next couple of weeks? Is that the timeline you're looking at?
Yes, that's exactly the timeline we're looking at. We know that varying based upon the state and the severity of cases in the state, we're looking anywhere from the next 5 to 10 days. So that's our latest information as of right now.
So that's good news for many people because, of course, nursing homes in this country, I mean, that's one of the most vulnerable populations, along with the frontline workers who are also taking care of individuals there. So when we're looking at the situation of what it will look like, is it something where it's just shipped out to your facility and then you administer it as such, or is there specific guidelines? How does that look?
Yeah, so the big thing with the vaccine is that it has to be stored at ultra cold temperatures, and most long-term care facilities in the country do not have the storage capacity. So the way we are working through that is with our pharmacists, and they are all set up to store the vaccines, and they will actually be transporting it to the facilities, and then they will be vaccinating the residents as well as the staff. So it's for us, it's more of a coordination effort and logistics effort than anything as far as that part of it goes.
And it's good to see medical professionals, of course, administering this vaccine as well. It's not only good news for them because they are also going to be, I'm assuming, receiving the vaccine themselves to make themselves immune from coronavirus, but also for the people who are the recipients there. I'm sure that it's also going to come with a sense of optimism, confidence, I should say, because this was an expedited process. And I know that there are some people who perhaps have reservations because of the speed of this process. Do you fear that that'll prohibit anyone from getting the vaccine?
Yeah, I really do, honestly. There's going to be folks, and I find that in talking with my residents and staff, there are folks that are apprehensive about it simply because of the speed that it was put through the process. But I think by and large, if I were to gauge the sentiment is definitely, we are thrilled that it's here. And, you're going to see the majority of people opting to take the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can stress how amazing this opportunity is for a lot of people. I mean, we're dealing with a once-in-a-century type of crisis, and I mean, our pharmaceutical companies, our government as well, have put this in a position where here we are a year later, and we're talking about the prospect of a vaccine. I mean, that within itself is a miraculous discovery. But when we're talking about the distribution as well, is there any concerns about shortages or anything like that? Or because it is a select vulnerable population that right now is being administered the vaccine, that shouldn't be a case?
Well, the shortages are going to occur simply with the least needy of the states and counties. So that's where your shortages are going to be, is where you've got folks that really want the vaccine, but they simply are not in a geographic area or region where it's been put as a high priority. So that's where your shortages will be. But as far as it's my understanding with the Pfizer vaccine rollout, that there's an initial rollout of 6 million doses coming forth. And that should take care of, make a large dent in the most vulnerable population and in those most strategic areas where the infection rate is the highest.
Right. And of course, I'm sure a lot of our viewers know this by now, but those older populations are the ones that are most vulnerable to not only contracting the disease, but also getting severe symptoms and possibly dying from it as well. So it is good news that they are going to be the ones who receive this vaccine earlier rather than later. But before we get to necessarily, I guess, the potential of a cure, I first want to get an update as well on the situation in nursing homes. It wasn't too long ago where we were talking about quite frankly, a crisis that was occurring in many nursing homes across the country. Oftentimes, people who had coronavirus were putting back into these nursing home facilities. Has the situation improved? Have we learned a lot since then?
We have. The nursing home industry has learned a lot. The government's learned a lot. And, things are kind of at this new stable state of a new normal, if you please. Yeah. And so our staff as well as the residents have learned to cope with it and deal with it. We're at the facility level, our facilities are providing a lot more support one-on-one within the rooms through our social services departments, through the activities departments. So there's a lot more individualized and personalized attention taking place right now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we just have to say, because of this was a new crisis, it was a new threat that we haven't dealt with before in the past, such as the flu, for example. I mean, now we're at a point where our medical professionals know how to deal with that and perhaps the best way possible. But the uncertainty at the beginning of this pandemic really came to a detriment for a lot of people. We didn't know necessarily how contagious it was. We didn't know how deadly it was. Human-to-human transmission was a question. All of that came together in a sense that put together this feeling of uncertainty for a lot of people. But now here we are looking at the prospect of a vaccine. Will this be a quick change for a lot of nursing home facilities, or will it be kind of a slow, prolonged type of process where they do want to first, get the data coming out of these facilities first?
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a gradual return to normal. I don't, although we would all like to get back to a state of status quo as to how we were before. I think you're going to see buildings across the country who are hesitant to just say, okay, everybody's been vaccinated, let's go back to normal. There's going to continue to be a huge push on infection control, both at the facility level as well as from the regulatory level. And this is going to be with us for a while. Even though the vaccine's out there, we'll be dealing with the ramifications for some time.
Right. And for a lot of people, too, they are saying that this vaccine could be that return to normal. But I think that it's worth noting that, the vulnerable populations are going to get the vaccine first. But in order for us to really get back to normal, I think it's something like 70% of the population has to become immune to this virus, whether it's through contracting it already or through a vaccine. We're looking at a couple months before we get to that period because first, as you were saying, about 6 million doses for those vulnerable populations, then frontline workers, then the essential workers. We're looking at a pretty extended time frame before we're back to normal. Am I correct?
Yeah, we really are. The latest date that I've seen was June of 2021 as to when we will kind of hit that point of 70%. So it's down the road several months. So by the time we hit that point, then we're 60 days out from fall and flu season starting again. So this is with us for a while.
Right, and it's something too where we want to avoid basically having a perennial coronavirus type of season. We still don't know if this virus mutates that much or anything like that. As I was saying, we've only been dealing with it with 1 year, so there's still extensive studies to be done on that front as well. But is there anything else that, for example, your nursing home facilities need, or anything else that maybe isn't getting the right attention because the coronavirus vaccine has kind of been deemed this new return back to normal? Is there anything else that your facilities need?
Yeah, the biggest thing that people can do really across the country and really around the world is reach out to their elderly population. If you have a parent or a loved one, a family member, friend, neighbor that's in a long-term care facility, reach out to them, whether it's through Skyping or the FaceTime or writing a letter, going and even looking through the window and chatting that way. But reach out and embrace them. That's the beauty of this business, is you get to learn the life history and so many lessons that these folks have learned throughout their entire lives.
It's 6 o'clock.
They're truly a gold mine. So get out and enjoy the residents and connect with them.
I think that's very well said because, for a lot of people, it may be out of sight, out of mind when we're talking about coronavirus. I know a lot of our viewers may be younger, for example, and they think, you know what, if I get it, no big deal. But when we're talking about nursing homes, those are the populations who are literally at risk from this virus more so than anybody else. So for them to be reached out to, just show that they are being thought about during this time, that they're not just a statistic that we'll eventually talk about, I think that goes a long way for a lot of these individuals. But Dan Stockdale, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight because the same way that it's important to get their story, it's important to know how we can help them as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.